just before we started worshiping, they were just finishing up the collection, and I had a vision. I saw this huge, huge weight. Not the type you find in the gym, not on a barbell, but when you see a single weight, and this weight come flying down and slammed into the ground. And right after that, the vision opened up, and we were in a big gymnasium, and weights, the type you have in the gym, the smaller weights, were all coming down. And the Lord said, today is the day that he's going to bring down weights. If you're carrying a weight, he said, release it to him. Hebrews tells us, lay aside every weight and sin which does beseech you. It's time to lay those things aside. Everything that would hinder you walk with the Lord. Everything that would take your joy from you. Everything that would stop you from being who God has called you to be. Lay aside those weights. Prior to that, it says, we are compassed about by so great a cloud of witnesses. There's many that have gone before us that had to do the same thing, that laid down their weights, and now they're up there looking down and rooting us on.
Thank you, sister. We were all damaged goods, every single one of us. And I love the scripture, and I quote it often about he will never leave us nor forsake us, but be with us always, all the way to the end. God is so precious and so good. And I have backslid twice in my life. And each time that I walked away from God, I thought, what is wrong with me? And the devil will keep you at bay. But I am glad that God is persistent. Like that song said, there ain't no wall he won't kick down to coming after me. Now, I don't know if you've been on that end of the wall or not, but I have. And I'm going to tell you something. God is persistent. He will pursue us to the ends of the earth. And I am so glad about that. He never gives up on us, does he? I'm telling you, he's a good, good God. Well, the Lord gave me a message for this morning. It's called Your Circumstances Won't Move God. And we all have circumstances that seem to just hang on to us or maybe hang on to our families. And many have the attitude that circumstances is what dictates our destinies. But I'm going to preach a different story about them circumstances this morning. They merely, I'd like to say this morning that they merely determine where you start your journey into your destiny. Circumstances are always going to be there. I know money's going to be short sometimes. Sometimes somebody's going to break your heart. Sometimes there's going to be a broken relationship. Sometimes there's going to be things that pop up on the job that there's always going to be something to aggravate you. How many's ever been aggravated? Lord have mercy. How many's aggravated right now? I've seen some hands. Well, I can tell you from experience that a lot of times those aggravations come to merely get us into the position that we need to be in to start the journey into our future that God has for us. And there's been many times that in my own life I thought, God, this can't be you. But I subscribe to the scripture where it says, all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called according to his purposes. I love the Lord, and I know I'm called according to his purpose. So everything that happens in my life is for the good, even though it seems like it's bad. Sister Kelly, I know the doctor gave you a death sentence, and now he's amazed. He's sitting back saying, what has happened to Kelly? I'm going to tell you, Chemotherapy didn't do it, sister. The God in heaven that heard your prayers when you cried out unto Him is the God that has sustained you. They gave you 3 months to live, and I'm telling you, 2 months to live. I'm sorry. How long's it been, sister? Coming up on a year. The doctors cannot condemn you to death. Your faith in God is what makes you alive. And there's many of you that have gone through some horrific things, and some of you may be going through some horrific things right now, but I am here to tell you this morning that you've got hope in your God, because He is there leading your path, going down there wherever you need to go. God is there with you. Even though sometimes it seems like you're all alone. There's been so many times in my life that I've felt alone when I've pastored. How many's pastored in here? Raise your hands. Raise them up high. Don't be ashamed, boys and girls. Look at there, about 6 or 7, 8. I'm telling you. Have you ever felt like you was just alone while you was pastoring? Besides me, let me say, yeah. Pastoring sometimes the loneliest job on the planet. And I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes you get down and you say, God, where are you at? Why is this happening? My life is falling apart. Everything just seems to be in the commode. And that's a hillbilly way of saying trash. We throw everything in the commode. Seems like everything's being flushed. And where are you, God? Well, I'd like to tell you that God is still there. I have found, as I look back now, that God has been closer to me in the times when I felt like He wasn't there than He was when I was on the mountaintop and felt like all the glory of God was surrounding me. Sister Carmen, you're alive, not because the doctors has cured you. You had that throat cancer. You went through all the radiation and the chemo and all that stuff, and you're sitting there with a smile on your face. You can't talk real good yet, but I guarantee you that the same God that has raised you up is the same God that's going to make you talk. Glory to God. The devil's a liar, and he'll come to you when you're at your lowest point and try to bring even more discouragement and heap it on your shoulders. But I am here to tell you that the same Christ that made you free when you first got saved is the same Jesus Christ that is going to raise you up and sustain you in the midst of your journey. Holy God. This is going in a different direction, but that's okay. This is what the Spirit wants. I like what Martha Washington once said. She said, I've learned from experience that the great part of our happiness and misery depends on our disposition and not our circumstances. You find somebody with a good attitude, and they can have the same disease, and they'll just rise up and whoop it. And then you got somebody with a bad attitude, and they'll fall down in the dumps and die with it. What's the difference? The circumstances are the same. What's the difference? The difference is the faith that you display in your God. Whew, my goodness. So many depend on their circumstances to control whether or not they're happy. I got me a new car and I'm happy. Till that sucker breaks down. Come on. That's all temporary stuff. I'm not dependent on stuff to make me happy. I like stuff. I know you like stuff too, because we got lots of stuff. But that isn't where our true happiness comes from. Our true happiness comes from the Lord. Folks, we have the ability to make ourselves as happy or as miserable as we want. Oh, God. I have great adoration for those that, in spite of their circumstances, choose, like the Apostle Paul did, to be content with whatever state they find themselves in. You find yourself with no money in the bank, I'm content. You find yourself in a broken relationship, I'm still content. You say, how can you say that? You've never been in a broken. Oh, yes, I've been in broken relationships. Maybe not with my spouse, because I took her under my wing when she was 14. Stole her from the crib. Had to wean her from the bottle. I used to tease her mother. Oh, Lord, I'm going crazy now. I used to tease her mother. You didn't raise her, daughter, because she's so proud of Sherry. She said, I raised me a good one. I said, you didn't raise her. I got her when she was just a baby. I'm the one that raised her. I done a good job. Well, that just used to burn her up. Where was I going with that, Sharon? Oh, being content. Your current circumstances are a part of your redemption story that God is currently writing. Think about it. Your life's not over. Your past is over, but your future's in front of you. And God is redeeming you. Oh, man. I like that. God is redeeming us every day. Every circumstance is a part of our redemption. Nothing takes God by surprise. He knew you would be where you're at in your life right now, today, where you're at. And He knew the circumstances it was going to take for you to get here. So it isn't like God says, oh, I can't believe they did that. He already knew He was going to do that. And He made provision. How many knows He's God the provider? He made provision for you on this journey. There's a trail, the Appalachian Trail. How many knows about that? How many's ever walked it? How many's ever drove by it? The Appalachian Trail goes from New York down into Georgia, I think. It's a long ways. More than, how many, probably 1,500 miles or something. I know it's a long ways. I walk 1,500 feet and it's like, yeah. But along that trail, I love this because along that trail, there are people that are encouraging the hikers. And you know how they do it? They come and leave hiker packages out alongside the trail. Yeah, I read a story and it was so good. This person hiked that entire trail, and there would be love packages along the trail. There would be food. There would be beef jerky. There would be energy drinks, and there would be a note. Enjoy your walk and enjoy this little token, a little gift. So as they went along, and they was tired and thirsty, they was hungry. They might have run low on provisions. They would run across the package. I would like to tell you this morning that there's packages along the way of your journey. And sometimes we walk right by them, dying of thirst, and walk right by the very thing that could help us. Brother Hogan, before he passed away, he wrote a song. We've got it somewhere on CD. And he wrote a song about standing in the river, dying of thirst. Because you didn't know, having enough sense, not ain't what he says in the song, but basically to drink. And I thought, so many times in my life, I've done that. I've walked past the provision that God has provided. And my circumstances was telling me, don't stop, don't drink, don't eat. Just keep on going. You're tired and you're weary, but just keep on going. Because you know why? Because I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like I was good enough to stop and partake of that provision. But I'm here to tell you this morning that none of you are worthy, myself included. to partake of the provision that God has provided. But His Son, Jesus Christ, has made you worthy to be a partaker of His divine nature. My Lord and my God, church, it's time to grab a hold of the reality of God. Quit letting your circumstances control your life. God's not moved by them. Listen, I'm going to be reading to you in Acts 16 through 30. But before I go there, how many remembers the story of the woman with the issue of blood? This woman suffered under the hands of doctors. She spent all her entire living, all of her savings, everything on doctors that couldn't help her. And she heard about Jesus, and the disease that she had was made her unclean. Nobody was supposed to touch her. Nobody was supposed to even be around her, but she pushed her way through the crowd to touch the hem of His garment. Jesus wasn't even aware that she was there. There was thousands of people that was pressing in on Him. And this woman pushed through, reached up and touched the hem of His garment as He passed by, and virtue left His body. Her circumstances isn't what moved Jesus. What moved Jesus was her faith. My Lord and my God, she reached through, she touched that garment, she received her healing, and Jesus said, "Who touched me?" The disciple says, "What are you talking about? Everybody's touching you." I perceive that virtue has left my body. And the woman knew that she was discovered. And she come trembling and she admitted, "I'm the one. I need a paper towel. I'm the one." See, I told you I got all weepy this morning. "I'm the one, Lord. I'm the one that touched you." I can imagine she probably said, "I'm sorry." He said, "No, you don't got to be sorry. You've got something that the rest of these folks need. You've got faith." Virtue left my body. I didn't know your circumstances until you touched me. And a lot of times, until you touch Christ, your circumstances are just going to exist and persist. In Acts 16 through 30, it says, "And it came to pass, as they went to prayer, a certain damsel, possessed with a spirit of divination, met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. The same followed Paul and us, and cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High God, which showed unto us the way of salvation. And this did she many days, but Paul, being grieved, turned and said unto the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And it came out of her the same hour. And when her masters saw that the hope of their gains was gone, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace and to the rulers, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, These men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city. Can somebody get me a drink? And teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Who, having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison, and made their feet fast in stocks. And at midnight, now let me stop right there for a moment. We're all real familiar with this story. Paul and Silas was mistreated. There was wrong done to them. They were thrown into prison after they were beaten. Thank you, my sister. I don't want to stop. I'm just getting started. I know y'all's wanting to go to lunch. And so Paul and Silas decided about midnight to sing praises to God. And the prisoners heard them in the 25th verse. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's bands were loosed. And the keeper of the prison awaking out of sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoners had been fled. But Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, "Do thyself no harm, for we are all here." Then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas and brought them out and said, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" What a story. I would like to say to you this morning, the circumstances for Paul and Silas look pretty bleak. How could God allow his men to be mistreated and go to prison? I want to see the hands of the ministers in the church again. Come on. Raise them up high, guys. Come on. Wave them like this. Gus, higher. All right. Somebody put their hands down. You guys are dropping out like flies. How many of y'all been mistreated? Oh, God. When I first got saved and called to preach, I thought, man, I finally made it to the top. Got my first church, and I thought, woohoo, everybody's going to love me. They hated my guts. That's hillbilly talk for intros. They hated me, some of them. Some of them loved me, but some of them hated me. And they mistreated me and my wife something terrible. I thought, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. They didn't treat Hogan that way. I just didn't know what Hogan was going through. He always had a smile on his lips, had his little guitar, singing his little song, preaching his little message, and everybody patting him on the back. And I'm thinking, yeah, baby, when I get there, everybody's going to treat me right. Mm-hmm. We was mistreated. Why did God allow that to happen? It encouraged me to pray and to seek God with everything in me. And I thought, God, did Brother Hogan go through this? And God shared with me, Brother Hogan went through it. Not everybody that smiled and patted him on the back was his friend. Brought a rude awakening. And I thought, okay, God, I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to get through this. But I used to question God, why do you allow us to go through them kind of things? Paul, one of the greatest apostles on the planet, why would Paul be beaten and thrown in jail? God, it seems like God forsook him. Them ungodly men beat him and chained him to the wall in the inner prison. But none of them things moved God. That was just circumstances. What moved God? Well, about midnight, I don't know which one of them said, hey, can't do nothing about our circumstances. Why don't we just sing a song? Might have sing that song that I sing. Well, listen to me, devil. Tell you what I'm going to do. You've walked on me long enough. Now I'm going to walk on you because I'm tired of you, devil. I don't know what they say, but that would have been a good one. They begin to sing praises unto God, lifting up their voice in the prison, and all the prisoners woke up saying, what in the world is going on? Revival time in the inner prison. And then an earthquake comes. Shake, rattle, and roll. Heard preachers preach God was tapping his foot to the song, caused the prison to shake. I don't know. God definitely caused it to shake. I don't know how he did it. But all the doors opened up. All the bands fell off, and all the prisoners stayed in the jailhouse. It was praise that moved God. Church, when we get it really figured out, that when we worship and we display faith and confidence in God, that God is absolutely going to move through the circumstances. Sometimes circumstances come our way, so we will pray. We will manifest faith. But instead of singing praises to God, we're like, oh, come on. Woe is me. The devil's fitting me now. Come on, church. What moves God is your faith, your confidence. Your commitment to God will move God. Your circumstances won't, because we're always going to have them. I know that some of you have difficult circumstances in your life right now, but you're serving a God that's in control of everything. And if he's truly in control of everything, what do we really have to worry about? Mikey, go to the music. You and whatever your name is. Forgot your name. Micah. You got it covered, okay. You guys just messed me up.